Ella Monroe never imagined her quiet life on the outskirts of Seattle would be shattered in a single night. She had spent the last 3 years working as a freelance coder, living in relative obscurity. Her days were spent debugging complex systems for tech startups, and her nights often blurred into early mornings spent tinkering with open-source projects. It wasn't glamorous, but it was safe, predictable, and, most importantly, it kept her far away from the shadows of her past. But shadows have a way of finding you, no matter how far you run. The first sign of trouble was the email. It arrived late on a Thursday night, buried among spam offers and automated reminders. The subject line read simply, "For Ella's eyes only." At first, she assumed it was a phishing attempt, but something about the sender's address caught her attention. m.monroe@protonmail.com. Her father's name. Ella's fingers froze over the keyboard. Marcus Monroe had been dead for 10 years, killed in a car accident that still felt too convenient to be an accident. He was a figure she barely spoke about, let alone thought about these days. But as she stared at the email, a flicker of doubt wormed its way into her mind. Taking a deep breath, she clicked it open. The message was short and cryptic. "Ella, if you're reading this, they found me. The files attached will explain everything. Trust no one, not even me." Attached were 3 heavily encrypted files. Ella's heart pounded as she stared at the screen. The logical part of her brain screamed at her to delete the email and move on. She didn't want to dig into whatever dark secrets her father had left behind. But curiosity and instinct had always been stronger than caution in her. "I'm probably going to regret this," she muttered under her breath. It took her hours to decrypt the first file, and by the time she succeeded, the sun was beginning to rise over the Seattle skyline. Her tiny apartment was bathed in a pale orange glow, but Ella barely noticed. She was too focused on the lines of text and schematics spilling across her screen. The file contained details about a shadowy organization called Oracle. It wasn't a tech company or a think tank, as its name might suggest. Oracle was something far darker, an unregulated entity operating beyond the reach of any government. The documents described experiments in neural networking, technology designed to link human minds directly. But the implications went far beyond medical breakthroughs. Oracle's experiments weren't about curing diseases or improving communication. They were about control. The second file contained footage. It was grainy and shaky, as though filmed secretly. Ella's stomach churned as she watched subjects strapped to chairs, electrodes embedded in their heads. Some screamed. Others sat unnaturally still, their eyes glazed over. The camera panned to a figure standing at the edge of the room. Marcus Monroe, her father. "No," she whispered, recoiling from the screen. Her father wasn't just involved in Oracle's work. He seemed to be leading it. She paused the footage, staring at his face, searching for some sign that this was all a mistake. But there he was, unmistakable, speaking in calm, measured tones to a group of men in suits. Ella's shock turned to anger. How could he have done this? How could he have been part of something so horrific? But before she could process her emotions, her laptop emitted a sharp ping. Her systems were being breached. "Damn it," Ella hissed, fingers flying across the keyboard. She'd spent years building firewalls strong enough to fend off even the most persistent hackers, but whoever was attacking her wasn't just skilled, they were relentless. Within seconds, her screens began to flicker. Then the power cut out. Ella sat in stunned silence as her apartment was plunged into darkness. She barely had time to grab her phone before the sound of footsteps echoed outside her door. Instinct took over. She bolted to the window, flinging it open and slipping onto the fire escape just as her front door burst open behind her. The intruders were dressed in black tactical gear, their faces hidden by masks. Ella didn't wait to see what they wanted. She climbed down the fire escape as fast as she could, her heart hammering in her chest. When she hit the ground, she sprinted into the alley, her mind racing. Who were they? Oracle operatives? Government agents? She didn't know, and she didn't want to stick around to find out. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Pulling it out, she saw another message. This one sent to an encrypted number she hadn't used in years. "Meet me at the usual spot. It's not safe there anymore." The sender was Zara Steele, a name Ella hadn't heard in over a decade. Zara had been a whistleblower during Ella's childhood, someone her father had worked with on projects Ella wasn't supposed to know about. If Zara was reaching out now, it meant trouble. Ella didn't stop running until she reached an old, abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. It had been their meeting place years ago, back when her father still had allies he could trust. She slipped inside, her muscles tense, her ears straining for any sound of pursuit. Ella. The voice was low, steady, and unmistakably familiar. Zara emerged from the shadows, older but no less imposing. Her piercing gaze swept over Ella, taking in her disheveled appearance. "You got the files," Zara said, more a statement than a question. Ella nodded, still catching her breath. "What the hell is going on? Who were those people in my apartment?" Zara sighed, motioning for Ella to sit. "It's worse than you think. Oracle knows you have those files. They'll stop at nothing to get them back." Ella clenched her fists. "Oracle? My father worked for them, didn't he? He was part of those experiments." Zara hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but Marcus wasn't who you think he was. He wasn't a monster, Ella. He was trying to stop them." "What do you mean?" Ella demanded. "There's more to this story than you know," Zara said. "But if we don't move fast, you'll never get the chance to learn it. Oracle has eyes everywhere. If they find you, it's over." Ella swallowed hard, her mind reeling. Her quiet life was gone. Whatever her father had left behind, it was big enough to kill for. And now, it was up to her to uncover the truth. The abandoned warehouse was suffocatingly quiet except for the faint hum of the portable generator Zara had set up in a corner. Ella sat cross-legged on the cold concrete floor, staring at the small, unassuming data drive Zara had handed her. It felt heavier than it should, weighted by the knowledge it contained and the danger it represented. Zara paced a few feet away, her sharp gaze flickering between the boarded-up windows and Ella's pale face. "We don't have much time," she said, her voice low and steady. "Oracle's not going to stop. They'll have traced you here already." Ella tightened her grip on the drive. "Why me? Why now? My dad's been dead for 10 years. Why would they care what I have?" Zara stopped pacing and knelt in front of Ella, her expression unreadable. "Because your father left them more than just a headache. He left them terrified. That drive you're holding? It's a map, locations, data centers, names of people tied to Oracle's neural network experiments. But there's more. There's something hidden deep in their systems. Something Marcus built as a failsafe." Ella felt a pang of bitterness at the mention of her father. "Failsafe?" she asked, her voice sharp. "He created this nightmare in the first place. I saw the footage, Zara. He was there, running the experiments." Zara's eyes softened, and for a brief moment, the steel in her demeanor cracked. "What you saw was only part of the truth. Your father, he was working to stop Oracle from the inside. He built Project Genesis, yes, but it wasn't what the board turned it into. Genesis was supposed to be a breakthrough in communication, a way to heal neurological damage. But Oracle twisted it into something monstrous." Ella's jaw tightened. "And he just went along with it?" "No," Zara said firmly. "When he realized what they were doing, how far they were willing to go, he fought back. But by then, Oracle was too powerful. They used his research against him. That's when he built the failsafe." Ella looked down at the drive in her hand. "What exactly is this failsafe?" Zara hesitated. "It's complicated. Think of it like a backdoor into Oracle's neural network. If we can access the master node, Marcus's failsafe will dismantle the entire system from within. But it's not without risk. The network isn't just technology anymore. It's alive." Ella's head shot up. "Alive? What are you talking about?" Zara exhaled slowly, leaning back against the wall. "That's why I needed you to see this for yourself. There's someone you need to meet. Someone who can explain what Oracle's really been doing." A few hours later, Ella found herself sitting in the dimly lit kitchen of a remote safe house, deep in the outskirts of Tacoma. The place was a relic of the Cold War, a forgotten bunker that Zara had repurposed into a sanctuary for those fighting against Oracle. Across the table sat Dr. Sophia Reyes, a middle-aged neuroscientist with sharp features and tired eyes. She stirred a steaming cup of tea but didn't seem interested in drinking it. "So you're Marcus's daughter," Sophia said, her voice tinged with both curiosity and skepticism. I always wondered if you'd resurface. Ella bristled. I didn't resurface. Oracle dragged me into this when they broke into my apartment. Sophia nodded knowingly. They don't like loose ends. And you, Ella, are the loosest end of all. Your father left breadcrumbs for you to follow. Breadcrumbs they've been trying to erase for years. Zara leaned against the counter, her arms crossed. Tell her what Oracle's been doing, Sophia. She needs to know everything. Sophia set the spoon down and met Ella's gaze. What do you know about neural networks? Enough to know they're dangerous in the wrong hands, Ella replied. Sophia nodded. Oracle's network isn't just dangerous, it's unprecedented. They've been running experiments on human subjects for decades, using Marcus's research as a foundation. The goal was to create a collective consciousness, a way to link human minds directly. At first, it was about enhancing communication, creating shared experiences. But then the board saw the potential for control. Imagine being able to manipulate thoughts, memories, even entire personalities. That's what Oracle's after. Total domination. Ella felt a chill crawl up her spine. And my dad, he helped them start this? At first, yes, Sophia admitted. But Marcus didn't realize what they were turning it into until it was too late. That's when he sabotaged their work, embedding a virus into the network. If activated, it would expose everything, every experiment, every cover-up, every person involved. But, Ella asked, sensing hesitation. But the network evolved, Sophia said grimly. It's not just code anymore. The human subjects they experimented on, their minds became part of the system. They're connected now, like a living organism. If we destroy the network, we destroy them too. Ella's stomach turned. So either we leave Oracle in control, or we kill innocent people? Sophia hesitated. There might be another way. Your father's failsafe was designed to sever Oracle's control over the network without destroying it. But to do that, we'd need direct access to their masternode. It's housed in their central facility, deep underground, and heavily guarded, Zara added. We can't just walk in there and flip a switch. We need a plan. The discussion stretched late into the night, with Ella, Zara, and Sophia poring over blueprints, schematics, and old intel Marcus had left behind. The more Ella learned, the more she realized just how deep Oracle's influence ran. They had infiltrated governments, law enforcement, even private tech companies. They have eyes everywhere, Zara warned. We can't trust anyone outside this room. Ella nodded, though the weight of it all felt crushing. So what's the next step? Sophia tapped a map on the table. There's a research facility in Nevada, a secondary hub for Project Genesis. If we can infiltrate it, we might find the access codes for the master node. It's our best shot. And if we fail? Ella asked. Zara's expression hardened. Then Oracle wins. And they won't stop until they've silenced us for good. Ella looked around the room, at the faces of the people who had thrown their lives into this fight. She didn't ask for any of this, but now, standing on the edge of a conspiracy that spanned decades, she knew there was no turning back. All right, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Let's do this. The drive to Nevada was tense, the air inside the van heavy with unspoken questions and an oppressive sense of urgency. Zara drove with sharp, precise focus, her eyes scanning the road for any sign of pursuit. Ella sat in the passenger seat, clutching her laptop like a lifeline, while Sophia and a young technician named Eric, whom Zara had called in as backup, worked on decrypting additional files Marcus had left hidden in the drive. The faint hum of Sophia's keyboard filled the van, punctuated only by the occasional rustle of maps or murmured updates from Zara. Ella's mind raced, replaying everything she had learned over the past 48 hours. The footage of her father at Oracle, the network of human minds turned into a weapon, and now the possibility that her childhood friend Liam was somehow involved. It was all too much, yet she couldn't let herself stop and process it. Not yet. We're getting close, Zara announced, breaking the silence. We'll park about 3 miles out. The rest we do on foot. Ella glanced out the window as the barren Nevada desert stretched endlessly before them, dotted only by jagged rock formations and scrubby brush. The landscape was desolate, and she understood why Oracle had chosen this spot for one of their research hubs. Anything from the files yet? Ella asked, looking over her shoulder at Sophia. Sophia didn't glance up, her fingers still flying over the keys. I'm working through the encryption. Marcus wasn't kidding when he said this information was buried. Whoever finds it will need more than just a password. They'll need context, and that context seems to be scattered across multiple locations. So we're chasing breadcrumbs, Ella muttered. Breadcrumbs that might save millions of lives, Sophia countered. Zara parked the van behind a rocky outcropping and killed the engine. End of the line, she said, grabbing her rifle and stepping out. The group followed suit, gathering their gear and preparing for the trek. Zara handed Ella a small earpiece. Comms only. Keep chatter minimal. Once we're inside, we don't know what kind of surveillance they have. Ella nodded, slotting the device into her ear. She glanced up at the stark blue sky, her stomach twisting with nerves. She had spent her life behind a screen, fighting battles with lines of code. This was something entirely different. The facility came into view as they crested a ridge, an unassuming building blending seamlessly with the desert landscape. It was smaller than Ella had expected, just a single, squat structure with faded concrete walls. But Sophia had explained that the real facility was underground, accessible only through an elevator hidden within the surface-level building. Guards, Zara murmured, crouching low behind a rock. Ella followed her gaze and spotted two armed men patrolling the perimeter. They were outfitted in tactical gear, their movements precise and deliberate. Not just rent-a-cops, then. These were professionals. I count 6, Sophia said softly, using binoculars. 2 outside, for inside based on heat signatures. We go in quiet, Zara instructed. Ella, you stick close to Sophia. We'll need you once we get to the servers. Ella swallowed hard but nodded. Got it. The approach was nerve-wracking. Zara moved like a shadow, slipping from one rock to another, her rifle at the ready. Sophia and Ella followed, with Eric bringing up the rear. They waited for the guards to pass before darting across open spaces, their breaths held until they reached the relative safety of another outcropping. When they reached the building, Zara motioned for them to stop. She pointed to a vent near the foundation. That'll get us inside. Small utility crawl space. Ella, you're up? Me. You're the smallest, Zara said simply. Go. Ella bit back a retort and dropped to her knees, prying the vent cover off with trembling hands. The crawl space was dark and narrow, but she forced herself to squeeze through, inching forward as her heart pounded in her ears. After what felt like an eternity, she emerged into a small maintenance room. She unclipped the comm in her ear. I'm in. Good. Open the back door, Zara replied. Ella hurried to the door and flipped the latch. Zara slipped inside with Sophia and Eric close behind. The 4 of them moved quickly through the hallways, Zara leading the way with her rifle raised. The tension in the air thickened as they descended deeper into the facility. After disabling 2 guards with tranquilizer darts, they reached the elevator. Sophia accessed a small control panel beside the doors, her fingers flying across the keys. This elevator is on lockdown, Sophia muttered. Give me a minute. Make it quick, Zara said, glancing over her shoulder. Ella felt her pulse quicken as Sophia worked. The air around them felt heavy, almost suffocating, and the silence of the facility was unnerving. Finally, the elevator doors slid open with a faint chime. The group stepped inside, and Sophia punched in the code for the lowest level. As the elevator descended, Ella stared at the reflective metal walls, her own pale face staring back at her. What exactly are we looking for down here? Access codes to the master node, Sophia said. They should be stored in one of the research terminals. Once we have those, we can get into Oracle's main system. And then what? Then we blow the lid off this entire operation, Zara said firmly. The elevator came to a halt, and the doors slid open to reveal a sprawling underground lab. Rows of sleek workstations lined the walls, interspersed with glass observation rooms. In the center of the room stood a massive server array, its blinking lights casting an eerie glow. Eric, secure the perimeter, Zara ordered. Sophia, Ella, find the codes. Ella moved to the nearest workstation, her fingers trembling as she brought the computer to life. Password protected, she muttered. Use this, Sophia said, handing her a USB drive. It's a brute force decryptor. Marcus designed it. Ella plugged in the drive and watched as lines of code scrolled across the screen. The seconds stretched into minutes as the program worked, every passing moment making her more anxious. Finally, the screen flickered and a folder appeared. "I'm in," Ella whispered. The folder contained hundreds of files, but one stood out. Genesis. Ella opened it and felt a chill run down her spine. The codes weren't just for accessing the master node. They also included a program titled Override Protocol, Neural Control. "What is this?" Ella asked, her voice shaking. Sophia leaned over her shoulder, her face paling as she read the screen. "It's a kill switch," she said quietly. "Marcus wasn't just trying to stop Oracle. He built this to take control of the network entirely." Zara's voice cut through the room. "We've got company." Ella looked up and saw the lab's main doors sliding open. A group of heavily armed operatives stormed inside, their movements precise and calculated. At the head of the group was Liam. "Ella," he said, his voice steady but conflicted, "put the drive down. You don't understand what you're dealing with." Ella's heart sank as the reality hit her. Her oldest friend wasn't here to help. He was here to stop her. "Liam," she whispered, "what have they done to you?" "Ella, please," he said. "This isn't what you think." But Zara had already raised her rifle, her finger on the trigger. "Get down," she barked. Gunfire erupted, and chaos descended. The sound of gunfire ricocheted through the underground lab as chaos erupted. Ella dove behind a workstation, her pulse pounding in her ears. Sparks flew as bullets struck nearby equipment, and the sterile hum of the facility was replaced by the cacophony of combat. "Cover fire," Zara shouted, moving with precision as she took down two operatives with rapid shots. Sophia huddled behind a terminal, clutching a small data drive. "We can't lose the codes," she yelled over the noise. Ella's eyes darted to Liam, who was advancing with the precision of someone who had done this before. His rifle was trained on Zara, but his movements were hesitant, almost restrained. "Liam, stop!" Ella shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. For a split second, he faltered, his gaze locking with hers. "Ella, you don't know what you're doing," he said, his voice strained. "Put the drive down before you make things worse." "Worse?" Ella shot back, her anger surging. "You're working for the people who turned my father's research into a weapon. How could you?" Liam's jaw tightened, but before he could answer, Zara fired a warning shot that narrowly missed him. "We don't have time for this," Zara barked. "Move now, or we're all dead." Ella ducked as another barrage of bullets sprayed across the room. "We need a way out," she shouted, frantically searching for an escape route. Sophia pointed to a steel door on the far side of the lab. "That leads to the lower maintenance tunnels. We can regroup there." Zara nodded. "Ella, Sophia, go. I'll cover you." "No," Ella said, her voice firm. "I'm not leaving without Liam." "What?" Zara turned to her with disbelief. "He's the enemy." Ella ignored her and took a step toward Liam, holding her hands up. "You don't have to do this," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Whatever they've done to you, we can fix it. Just come with us." For a moment, Liam's resolve seemed to waver. His grip on his weapon loosened, and a flicker of something, regret, perhaps, crossed his face. "I don't have a choice," he said quietly. "Of course you do," Ella insisted. "You're not like them. You've never been like them." Liam took a shaky breath, but before he could respond, a sharp voice barked through his comms. "Unit leader, neutralize the targets. Now." His expression hardened as he raised his weapon again. "Go, Ella," he said, his tone laced with anguish. "Before it's too late." "Liam." A deafening explosion rocked the lab as one of Zara's grenades detonated, sending equipment flying and filling the air with smoke. "Move," Zara yelled, grabbing Ella by the arm and dragging her toward the steel door. They stumbled into the maintenance tunnels, the dim, flickering lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The sound of combat faded as the heavy door slammed shut behind them. Zara quickly barricaded it with a nearby pipe, her face etched with frustration. Care to explain why you just risked all our lives to reason with a traitor? She demanded, rounding on Ella. He's not a traitor. Ella shot back, her chest heaving. Something's wrong with him. He's different. He's not himself. That doesn't matter, Zara said coldly. He's working for Oracle. That makes him dangerous. Ella clenched her fists. You didn't see his face. He didn't want to do this. He was trying to warn me. Sophia stepped between them, her voice calm but firm. Enough. We can't afford to fight each other right now. We need to focus on what's next. Zara let out a frustrated sigh but relented. Fine. But if he shows up again, I'm not hesitating. You'd better make peace with that. Ella didn't respond. She turned away, her mind racing with questions about Liam. How had he ended up with Oracle? And why did he seem so conflicted? As they moved deeper into the tunnels, Sophia broke the tense silence. Ella, there's something you need to know about Oracle's operatives. Ella glanced at her warily. What do you mean? They don't just recruit people, Sophia said, her voice heavy with regret. They modify them. They implant memories, alter behavior, turn loyal operatives into puppets. It's part of their neural experimentation. Ella's stomach dropped. You're saying Liam's one of their experiments? It's possible, Sophia admitted. The hesitation you saw in him could be a sign of residual resistance, fragments of his original self breaking through. But the longer he stays with Oracle, the more control they'll have over him. Ella's throat tightened. Is there a way to undo it? Sophia hesitated. Maybe. If we can access Oracle's central systems, we might be able to reverse the programming. But it won't be easy, and it might not be safe. Ella nodded, determination hardening in her chest. Then we'll do it. I'm not leaving him like that. The group finally emerged into an underground utility room, far from the main facility. Zara secured the door behind them and activated a portable jammer to block Oracle's tracking devices. We'll rest here for now, Zara said, dropping her gear with a heavy sigh. But we need to move before dawn. Oracle's going to be all over this area. Sophia sat down and began inspecting the data drive. The good news is we still have the codes. The bad news is the kill switch Marcus created might not work the way we think it does. What do you mean? Ella asked, her brow furrowing. Sophia turned the drive toward her, displaying the decrypted files. This isn't just a failsafe. It's also a weapon. If we use it, it won't just dismantle Oracle's network, it'll take control of it. Every mind connected to the system would be under our command. Ella's blood ran cold. That's not what we want. Exactly, Sophia said. Your father must have realized Oracle could use this against him, so he built it as a last resort. But if it falls into the wrong hands, it'll turn the world into a prison, Zara finished grimly. Ella stared at the drive, the weight of its implications pressing down on her. The power to destroy Oracle was within their grasp, but it came with a cost she wasn't sure they could pay. Then we make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands, she said finally. We'll find the master node, shut down Oracle, and free everyone connected to that network. No more experiments, no more control. Zara raised an eyebrow. You make it sound so simple. It's not, Ella admitted. But we don't have a choice. The distorted voice in Ella's ear lingered like an echo, sending her mind into a spiral of confusion and dread. Liam's voice. It couldn't have been a trick. She recognized the urgency in his tone, the faint tremor that betrayed vulnerability. Ella, Zara's sharp voice broke through her thoughts. What was that? Who are you talking to? Ella hesitated, her eyes darting between Zara, Sophia, and Eric. It was Liam. He said he needs my help. Zara let out a sharp laugh, devoid of humor. Your help? The same guy who just led a team trying to kill us? It's not that simple, Ella snapped. You didn't hear him. Something's wrong. And if there's even a chance he's still himself, I can't ignore it. He's playing you, Zara said coldly. Oracle's operatives are trained for manipulation. He's baiting you into a trap. Sophia interjected, her tone more measured. It's possible he's reaching out for real. If Liam's under Oracle's control, fragments of his old self might be breaking through. Ella seized on the possibility. Exactly. He's trying to fight it. We can help him. Zara folded her arms, her expression hard. We're not changing the plan because of a hunch. Oracle is still hunting us, and we need to move before they catch up. Ella stepped closer to Zara, her voice low but firm. I'm not asking for permission. I'm going to find him. The two locked eyes, tension crackling between them. Zara finally sighed and shook her head. Fine, but if this goes south, don't expect me to bail you out. They traced the origin of Liam's signal to a dilapidated motel on the outskirts of a nearby town. The sun had barely risen, casting long shadows across the empty parking lot as they pulled into a spot behind the building. Zara cut the engine and turned to Ella. This is reckless, she said bluntly. Stay sharp. I will, Ella said, clutching the data drive in her pocket like a talisman. Sophia adjusted the small scanner in her hand, watching its screen flicker with faint signals. He's here, but the signal's weak. If this is a trap, they're keeping it subtle. Ella stepped out of the car, her pulse quickening. The motel looked abandoned, its faded neon sign barely hanging on to its last letters. She approached room 203, the door slightly ajar. She knocked lightly, her voice shaking. Liam? It's me. The response came almost immediately. Come in. Slowly. Ella pushed the door open, her heart in her throat. Inside, Liam stood near the window, his rifle slung over his shoulder. His face was pale, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. He looked like a man torn between loyalty and fear. Close the door, he said softly. Ella complied, but she didn't take her eyes off him. What's going on, Liam? Why are you here? Liam hesitated, his hands twitching at his sides. I shouldn't be here, he said finally. If they find out I contacted you. Who? Ella pressed. Oracle? What did they do to you? He looked away, his jaw tightening. They took everything, Ella. My memories, my choices. They rewired me. Every order I follow, every move I make. It's them pulling the strings. But lately, I've been remembering things. Flashes of who I used to be. Ella's chest tightened. We can help you, she said. There's a way to undo what they did. Liam shook his head. You don't understand. It's not just about me. Oracle has bigger plans, something massive. The network, it's alive, Ella. It's evolving faster than they can control it. Ella stepped closer, her voice steady. Then help us stop them. You don't have to do this alone. Liam looked at her, his expression conflicted. There's a facility nearby, a testing site. It's where they're accelerating the neural network's evolution. If you want to shut Oracle down, you'll need to go there. What's inside? Data, prototypes, evidence, Liam said. But it's heavily guarded. They're monitoring everything. Then come with us, Ella urged. Help us get inside. Liam hesitated, glancing out the window as if expecting Oracle operatives to appear at any moment. If they find me with you, they'll kill us all. I can't risk that. You're already risking everything by being here, Ella argued. Don't let them win, Liam. He closed his eyes, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his decision. Finally, he nodded. Fine, but if we're doing this, we do it my way. No mistakes. Zara wasn't pleased when Ella returned to the van with Liam in tow. You've got to be kidding me, she said, leveling her rifle at him. Stand down, Ella said firmly. He's here to help. Help? Zara scoffed. We're supposed to trust the guy who almost killed us an hour ago? He had no choice, Ella snapped. And if we're going to take down Oracle, we need someone who knows their systems inside out. Liam can give us that. Liam raised his hands in a show of surrender. I get it. You don't trust me. I wouldn't trust me either. But if you want to stop Oracle, you're going to need what I know. Zara narrowed her eyes, but Sophia stepped in. We don't have time to argue. If Liam can get us into the testing site, we have to take the chance. Zara exhaled sharply, lowering her weapon. Fine, but if you so much as blink the wrong way, I'll put a bullet in you myself. Liam gave a faint, humorless smile. Fair enough. The plan came together quickly. The testing site was housed in an industrial warehouse on the edge of a sprawling Oracle-owned complex. Liam provided schematics and access codes, detailing the guards' patrol patterns and surveillance blind spots. We'll have a 10-minute window, Liam said, tracing a route on the map. Once we're inside, head for the data center. That's where they're storing the prototypes and logs of their experiments. What about the network? Ella asked. There's a terminal in the data center, Liam said. If we can access it, we might be able to upload your father's failsafe. And if we're caught? Zara asked. Then it's game over, Liam said bluntly. They arrived at the complex under the cover of darkness, slipping past the perimeter guards with Liam's guidance. The tension was palpable as they entered the warehouse, the sterile hum of machines filling the air. Data centers on the lower level, Liam whispered. Stay close. They moved in formation, with Zara and Liam taking point. The deeper they went, the more the facility resembled a laboratory, with rows of glass chambers filled with unconscious test subjects. Ella felt a chill crawl up her spine. What is this place? Oracle's next phase, Liam said grimly. They're testing new ways to link minds, ways that can't be severed. Sophia paused to examine one of the chambers. These people, they're alive, but barely. Ella's stomach churned as she realized the scope of Oracle's experiments. This wasn't just about control. It was about erasing humanity's individuality entirely. We have to end this, she said, her voice shaking. We will, Liam said. But we need to move now. The clock's ticking. The blaring alarm echoed through the sterile halls, the cold, mechanical voice repeating the same chilling message. Attention. Intruders detected. Secure all exits. Ella's heart sank as red emergency lights bathed the hallway in an ominous glow. She looked at Liam, trying to read his expression. His jaw was clenched, his hands gripping his rifle tightly. I didn't set this up, he said, his voice firm but laced with frustration. Convenient timing, Zara snapped, her rifle already trained on him. You lead us into this facility, and then the alarms go off? Forgive me if I don't buy your innocent act. Ella stepped between them, her arms outstretched. Stop. This isn't helping. If we don't figure out a way out of this, we're all dead. Sophia knelt by one of the terminals, frantically typing. The lockdown protocols are automated. Someone must have triggered the system remotely. This isn't Liam. Then who? Zara demanded, her gaze flicking to the security cameras overhead. Oracle, Liam said grimly. They're watching us. They probably always were. Great, Zara muttered. So they're playing with us like puppets. What's the plan, genius? Liam glanced at Ella, then back at the hallway ahead. We stick to the objective. The data center is just ahead. If we can get to the terminal, we still have a chance to upload the failsafe. And if this is all one big trap? Zara asked, her voice hard. Then we improvise, Ella said, her voice steadier than she expected. Zara let out a sharp breath. Fine, but if he so much as flinches, I'm putting him down. Understood, Liam said, his tone devoid of defensiveness. The group pressed forward, moving cautiously through the labyrinthine facility. The sterile hallways were eerily quiet now, the alarms having shifted to a low, rhythmic pulse that seemed to mimic the pounding of Ella's heart. As they rounded a corner, they came across a series of observation windows looking into a sprawling chamber. Inside, rows of test subjects were suspended in glowing pods, their faces obscured by wires and breathing apparatuses. Sophia froze, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh my God, these are people. Ella stepped closer to the glass, her stomach churning. The test subjects floated in a viscous, translucent liquid, their bodies twitching sporadically. She could see faint neural activity displayed on the monitors beside each pod. What is this? Ella whispered, horrified. This is what Oracle has been building, Liam said, his voice low. They're not just connecting minds anymore. They're building a hive, a collective consciousness they can control completely. These people, they're prototypes. Sophia approached one of the monitors, her fingers trembling as she read the data. Their brain activity, it's off the charts. They're not just connected to the network. They're driving it. Driving it? Zara echoed, her tone sharp. What does that mean? It means the network isn't fully artificial anymore, Sophia explained, her voice tinged with disbelief. These test subjects are acting as the core processors. They're thinking for Oracle. Ella felt a wave of nausea. This is monstrous. That's Oracle, Liam said grimly. Zara shook her head, her jaw tight. We don't have time for this. The data center. Where is it? Liam pointed to a door at the far end of the hall. Through there. But it'll be locked down tight. Sophia pulled a small device from her bag. I can override the locks, but it'll take a minute. Do it, Zara said, taking up a defensive position. We'll cover you. As Sophia worked on the lock, the low hum of machinery filled the air. Ella kept glancing back at the observation chamber, her heart aching for the people trapped inside. Liam, she said softly, is there a way to save them? He hesitated, his gaze fixed on the ground. I don't know. The pods keep them alive, but they're so integrated into the network that pulling them out could kill them. But there has to be a way, Ella pressed. We can't just leave them like this. We won't, Liam said, though his tone was uncertain. Before Ella could respond, Sophia let out a triumphant noise. Got it. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the data center. The room was enormous, filled with towering server racks that stretched toward the ceiling. The air was frigid, the hum of processing power reverberating through the walls. There, Liam said, pointing to a central terminal. That's where we upload the failsafe. Sophia and Ella rushed to the terminal while Zara and Liam stood guard. Sophia plugged in the drive, her fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard. I'm initiating the upload, she said. It's going to take a few minutes. Make it faster, Zara said, scanning the room with her rifle. Ella watched the progress bar on the screen, her anxiety mounting with each passing second. Come on, come on. Suddenly, the facility's voice crackled through the speakers. Unauthorized access detected. Countermeasures activated. The hum of the servers intensified, and the lights flickered ominously. What's happening? Ella asked, her voice rising in panic. They're trying to purge the system, Sophia said. If they wipe the servers before we finish the upload, we lose everything. Then we hold them off, Zara said, positioning herself by the door. As if on cue, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Oracle's operatives were closing in. Zara fired the first shot, and the hallway erupted into chaos. Stay down, she shouted over the gunfire. Liam joined her, his shots precise and calculated. Ella crouched by the terminal, shielding Sophia as she continued the upload. The progress bar inched forward, agonizingly slow. We're at 70%. Sophia called out. Zara ducked behind cover, reloading her rifle. We won't make it if this takes much longer. Ella's mind raced. She glanced at the server racks, an idea forming. What if we shut down the cooling systems? What? Sophia asked, her fingers pausing on the keyboard. If we overheat the servers, they'll slow down Oracle's purge, Ella said. It's risky, Sophia said. If we overheat them too much, we could corrupt the failsafe. We don't have a choice, Ella said, already moving toward the cooling controls. Ella accessed the cooling system's interface and began manually disabling the fans. The temperature in the room started to rise immediately, the air growing thick and oppressive. The purge is slowing, Sophia confirmed, her voice tense. But we've got to finish this fast. The operatives outside intensified their assault, forcing Zara and Liam to fall back closer to the terminal. 80%. Sophia shouted. Liam glanced at Ella, his face drenched in sweat. If we make it through this, you're buying me a drink. Ella managed a faint smile despite the chaos. Deal. The room fell into a tense silence, the oppressive heat from the overheating servers amplifying the weight of the moment. Commander Novak's presence exuded authority and menace, his imposing frame casting a long shadow across the threshold. Ella Callahan, Novak said, his tone dripping with calculated calm. The daughter of Marcus Callahan, the man who thought he could outsmart us. And now, here you are, trying to finish what he started. Ella stepped forward, forcing herself to meet Novak's piercing gaze. My father didn't just outsmart you, she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. He built a way to stop you, and we're about to use it. Novak chuckled, his gloved hands clasped behind his back. Bold words for someone standing in the heart of our operation, surrounded by my men. Zara, her rifle trained on Novak, muttered under her breath, I don't see any men right now. Just a dead man walking. Novak's eyes flicked to Zara, his expression unreadable. You must be Zara Malone, the sharpshooter with a chip on her shoulder. I've read your dossier. Impressive, if predictable. Keep talking, Zara shot back. It'll make pulling this trigger even easier. Liam, standing slightly behind Ella, stiffened as Novak's gaze settled on him. And you, Novak said, his voice dropping an octave. Liam Gage, the prodigal son, back from the brink of irrelevance. You were my finest recruit, and now you're reduced to betraying everything we gave you. Liam clenched his fists, his jaw tight. You didn't give me anything. You stole everything from me. Novak smirked, taking a slow step into the room. And yet, here you are, torn between duty and regret. Don't delude yourself into thinking you can undo what you've done. You're part of Oracle, whether you like it or not. Ella stepped in front of Liam, her voice cutting through the tension. This ends now, Novak. The failsafe is almost uploaded. You can't stop us. Novak tilted his head, his expression calm and calculating. Can't I? Without warning, Novak raised his hand, and a sharp, high-pitched sound filled the air. Ella winced, covering her ears as the sound intensified. Around the room, screens flickered and glitched, and the progress bar on the terminal stalled at 96%. What's happening? Sophia shouted, frantically typing on the keyboard. Novak allowed himself a satisfied smile. You didn't think we'd leave the core systems unprotected, did you? That failsafe of yours, it's clever, but it's also predictable. Oracle systems are designed to counter external attacks, no matter how well planned. You're lying, Ella said, though doubt crept into her voice. Am I? Novak replied. Check the terminal. Your precious upload has been frozen, and if you continue to push, you'll corrupt the entire system, including your failsafe. Sophia's fingers flew across the keyboard, sweat beading on her forehead. He's not bluffing, she said, her voice tight with frustration. We're locked out of the primary servers. Zara tightened her grip on her rifle. Then let's shoot him and figure out the rest later. No, Ella said quickly, holding up a hand. Novak's stalling for a reason. He wants us to panic. Novak clapped slowly, a mocking gesture. Well done, Miss Callahan. Your father would be proud. But you're out of time. Surrender the data drive, and I might consider letting you and your friends live. Ella's mind raced. She glanced at Liam, who was staring at Novak with a mix of anger and hesitation. She thought back to the observation chamber, to the people trapped in the pods, their lives stolen by Oracle's experiments. No deal, Ella said firmly. Novak sighed, as if disappointed. I expected more from you, Ella, but if this is how you want it. He gestured subtly, and suddenly, more operatives emerged from the shadows, their rifles trained on the group. Drop your weapons, Novak ordered. Zara's finger twitched on the trigger, but Ella gave her a sharp look. Reluctantly, Zara lowered her rifle, placing it on the floor. Liam followed suit, his expression dark. Smart choice, Novak said. He stepped closer to Ella, his voice dropping to a low, menacing whisper. Now, hand me the drive. Ella hesitated, her fingers brushing the pocket where the drive was hidden. But before she could move, Liam suddenly spoke. You'll never win, Novak, he said, his voice filled with quiet defiance. Novak turned to him, one eyebrow raised. And why is that? Liam's lips curled into a faint smile. Because you underestimate people like us. People with nothing to lose. Before Novak could respond, a deafening explosion shook the room. The ceiling above the operatives caved in, sending debris crashing down. A cloud of dust filled the air as a hidden breach team stormed in, their weapons blazing. Go, 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 a familiar voice shouted. Ella's heart leapt as she recognized the voice. It was Agent Carson, one of her father's former allies who had been working to expose Oracle. Carson's team quickly engaged Novak's operatives, creating a diversion. This way, Carson shouted, waving the group toward a side corridor. Ella grabbed the data drive and bolted, pulling Liam with her. Zara and Sophia followed close behind as gunfire erupted around them. They raced through the labyrinthine corridors, the sound of combat fading behind them. Ella's lungs burned as she pushed herself to keep moving. How did Carson find us? Zara asked, her voice breathless. I don't know, Ella admitted, but we owe him one. As they rounded a corner, Sophia slowed, checking the scanner in her hand. There's a secondary terminal ahead, she said. If we can bypass the block Novak put in place, we might still have a chance to finish the upload. Then let's move, Ella said, determination burning in her chest. The secondary terminal was located in a small, unassuming room filled with outdated equipment. Sophia immediately went to work, plugging in the data drive and pulling up the system interface. I'll need a few minutes to reroute the failsafe, she said. Keep an eye on the door. Zara and Liam took up defensive positions, their weapons trained on the hallway. Ella stood by Sophia, her heart pounding as the seconds ticked by. You can do this, Ella said, her voice steady. Sophia nodded, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Almost there. Suddenly, Liam stiffened, his gaze fixed on the hallway. They're coming. Zara readied her rifle. Let them try. The sound of boots echoed down the corridor, and Novak's voice rang out, cold and commanding. Ella, you can't run forever, he called. Surrender now, and I'll make this quick. Not a chance, Ella muttered. Sophia hit a final key, and the terminal screen lit up with a green progress bar. The failsafe's uploading again. It's slow, but it's working. Good, Zara said, her eyes never leaving the door. Because we're about to have company. Cliffhanger. As the failsafe continued its painstaking upload, Novak stepped into view at the end of the hallway, flanked by reinforcements. You should have taken my offer, he said, his tone dark. Ella stood her ground, her voice unwavering. You underestimated us, Novak, and now you're going to pay for it. Novak's cold smile faded as the sounds of distant explosions echoed through the facility, signaling the beginning of Oracle's collapse. The distant explosions reverberated through the walls of the facility, a low, thunderous rumble that sent vibrations through the floor. Ella stood frozen for a moment, her eyes locked on Novak as he advanced with his reinforcements. His calm demeanor wavered, replaced by an edge of irritation as the sounds of destruction grew louder. What have you done? Novak growled, his gaze flicking to the secondary terminal where the failsafe's progress bar crept closer to completion. Your empire's crumbling, Novak, Ella said, her voice steady. This is the end for Oracle. Novak's lips twisted into a snarl. We'll see about that. He gestured to his operatives. Take them alive. The drive must be intact. The operatives surged forward, their movements precise and efficient. Zara opened fire, her shots echoing in the confined corridor. Liam joined her, his rifle barking in controlled bursts. Hold the line, Zara shouted. Ella ducked behind a console, her heart racing as the firefight intensified. Sophia remained laser-focused on the terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she worked to keep the upload on track. We're at 70%. Sophia called out. That's not fast enough, Liam muttered, reloading his weapon. Novak remained at the rear of his squad, his cold gaze never leaving Ella. He seemed unbothered by the chaos, as if he already had a plan to regain control. Keep them pinned, Zara barked, firing another round. Sophia, can you speed this up? I'm trying. Sophia shot back, sweat beading on her forehead. This system is ancient. It's like trying to upload files through a dial-up connection. We don't have time for excuses, Zara snapped. As the operatives pressed closer, Ella noticed a maintenance hatch in the wall behind the terminal. An idea sparked in her mind. Sophia, she said urgently, crouching beside her. If they breach this room, can we move the upload to another terminal? Sophia hesitated, glancing at the progress bar. It's possible, but we'd lose time. Why? Ella gestured to the hatch. There's got to be another way out of here. If we split up, we can buy you time to finish the upload somewhere else. No, Zara interjected sharply. Splitting up is suicide. Ella stood her ground. If we stay here, we're sitting ducks. We have to keep moving. Liam nodded in agreement. She's right. If we keep Novak guessing, we stand a better chance. Zara's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue further. Fine, but if this goes south, it's on you. Liam pried open the maintenance hatch, revealing a narrow tunnel leading deeper into the facility. "This should take us to the lower levels," he said. "There's another terminal near the backup power grid. It's less secure, but it'll work." Sophia disconnected the data drive, tucking it into her bag. "Let's move." The group filed into the tunnel, Zara taking the rear to cover their escape. The confined space was stifling, the air thick with dust and the distant hum of machinery. "Where does this lead?" Sophia asked, her voice echoing in the metal corridor. "Emergency maintenance routes," Liam explained. "They're not on the main schematics, so Novak's team won't know where we are, at least for now." As they crawled through the tunnel, the distant sound of gunfire grew fainter. Ella felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they'd bought themselves enough time. But that hope was short-lived. A sudden mechanical whirring filled the air, followed by the unmistakable clatter of a drone's rotors. "Drones," Liam muttered, his expression darkening. "They're scanning the tunnels." Zara cursed under her breath. "Great. More toys." Ella glanced at Liam. "Can we disable them?" "Not easily," he admitted. "They're designed for reconnaissance and attack. If they spot us, they'll alert Novak immediately." "Then we stay quiet," Zara said. "No sudden moves." The group crept forward, their movements slow and deliberate. The drone's whirring grew louder, its searchlight sweeping through the tunnel ahead. Ella's breath hitched as the light passed over them, illuminating their faces for a brief second. "Go!" Zara hissed, shoving Ella forward. They broke into a sprint, the drone's alarm blaring behind them. The confined space made it impossible to move quickly, and Ella could feel the heat of the drone's light on her back. "Take it out," Zara shouted. Liam turned, firing a single shot that struck the drone's rotor. It sputtered and crashed to the ground, sparks flying. "That'll buy us a few seconds," Liam said. "But they'll know we're here now." The tunnel opened into a large chamber filled with industrial equipment and backup generators. Sophia immediately located the terminal and began setting up the data drive. "This is it," she said, plugging it in. "I'll need at least 5 minutes to reboot the upload." "Make it 3, Zara said, taking up a defensive position by the entrance. Liam and Ella joined her, their weapons trained on the corridor. "They'll be here soon," Liam said grimly. Ella's gaze flicked to the terminal, her stomach twisting with anxiety. The upload progress was reset, starting over at 1%. "We're running out of time," she muttered. "We're not out yet," Liam said, his voice steady. The sound of boots echoed down the tunnel, followed by Novak's voice. "You can't outrun me forever, Ella," he called out. "You can't win this." Zara gritted her teeth, her finger on the trigger. "I'm so sick of hearing that guy's voice." "Focus," Liam said. "They're close." The operatives appeared in the doorway, their rifles raised. Zara fired first, taking down the lead operative. Liam followed suit, his shots precise. 2 minutes. Sophia shouted from the terminal. Ella ducked behind a generator, firing at the advancing operatives. The room filled with the deafening sounds of gunfire and shouts. Novak entered the room, his expression cold and calculating. He raised his voice above the chaos. "Enough of this," he said. "End them." The operatives advanced in unison, their firepower overwhelming. Zara and Liam were forced to retreat closer to the terminal, their cover dwindling. "We can't hold this position," Zara shouted. Ella turned to Sophia. "How much longer?" 30 seconds. Sophia yelled, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "Make it 20, Liam said, reloading his weapon. Just as the situation seemed hopeless, a thunderous explosion rocked the facility. The walls shook, and debris rained down from above. Novak staggered, his calm facade finally cracking. What was that? Ella's radio crackled to life, and Carson's voice came through. "We've breached the main power grid. You've got 10 minutes before this place goes dark for good." Ella grinned despite the chaos. "You're a lifesaver, Carson." "Just finish the job," Carson replied. Novak stood in the flickering light of the failing generators, his smug grin unwavering as he held the data drive aloft. The room seemed to freeze, every breath held as Ella aimed her weapon at him. "You think you've won?" Novak said, his voice laced with derision. "This drive is meaningless without the context. All you've done is stir up chaos, and chaos is where people like me thrive. Not this time, Ella said firmly, her finger hovering over the trigger. Novak's operatives were regrouping, stepping cautiously over the debris from the recent explosion. Zara and Liam stood to Ella's flanks, their weapons trained on Novak and his men. "Give me the drive," Ella demanded. Novak's expression darkened. "You don't understand. You're playing with fire, Callahan. What's on this drive could burn the entire world." "Good," Zara snapped, her voice sharp. "Some things need to burn." Before Novak could respond, a new alarm blared, a low, grating sound that sent shivers down Ella's spine. "What now?" Sophia muttered from behind the terminal. Liam glanced at the nearest console. "It's the reactor. The power grid Carson took out. It destabilized the core. This place is going critical. Time to go," Zara shouted. But Novak remained rooted to the spot, his expression unreadable. "You can't leave," he said coldly. "Not with this." He gestured to the drive. Ella's heart raced. "We're leaving, Novak, and you can't stop us." Novak's grin returned, but this time it was different, more unhinged. "Then you leave me no choice." Before anyone could react, Novak hurled the drive toward a nearby vent, sending it clattering into the narrow shaft. The room erupted into chaos as Ella lunged toward the vent, shouting, "Get it!" Liam was faster, diving headfirst after the drive. He grabbed the edge of the vent and hauled himself inside, disappearing into the darkness. "Liam!" Ella shouted. "Go!" His voice echoed back. "I'll catch up." Zara cursed under her breath. Why does he always have to play the hero? "Because he's good at it," Ella said, turning her focus back to Novak. Novak took advantage of the distraction, pulling a concealed blade from his belt. He lunged toward Sophia, who was still standing by the terminal. "Look out!" Zara yelled. Ella reacted instinctively, firing her weapon. The shot hit Novak's arm, and the blade clattered to the ground. He stumbled back, clutching his wound, but his smirk never faltered. "You'll regret that," Novak growled, his voice low and dangerous. "Not as much as you will," Ella shot back. The ground beneath them shuddered violently as the reactor's warning alarms grew louder. Sophia's face was pale as she stared at the console. "We've got less than 5 minutes before this whole place blows," she said. "Then we're out of time," Zara said. "We need to move now." "But Liam," Ella began. "He knows what he's doing," Zara interrupted. "If we wait, none of us make it out." Ella hesitated, torn between her instinct to run and her unwillingness to leave Liam behind. "Ella!" Sophia shouted. "If we don't go now, everything we've done will mean nothing." Gritting her teeth, Ella nodded. "Let's move." The group raced toward the nearest exit, navigating the crumbling facility as alarms blared and the floor buckled beneath their feet. Novak's operatives gave chase, their shouts echoing down the corridors. Zara and Sophia fired back, covering their retreat. "They're closing in," Zara called out. Ella glanced over her shoulder and saw Novak limping behind his men, his gaze locked on her like a predator stalking its prey. "He's not giving up," Sophia said, her voice tight with fear. "Then we keep running," Ella replied. They reached the main corridor leading to the surface, only to find their path blocked by a reinforced blast door. "Of course," Zara muttered. "It's never easy." Sophia ran to the control panel beside the door, her hands trembling as she tried to bypass the lock. "This might take a minute," she said. "We don't have a minute," Zara snapped, firing at the operatives closing in. Ella stood beside Sophia, covering her as best as she could. "Just focus. You can do this." The operatives advanced, their firepower forcing Zara and Ella to retreat closer to the door. The room felt smaller with each passing second, the heat from the failing reactors making it harder to breathe. Finally, Sophia let out a triumphant shout. "Got it!" The blast door hissed open, revealing the cool night air beyond. "Go!" Ella shouted, shoving Sophia through the doorway. Zara fired one last shot before following, covering their escape. Outside, the night was alive with the sound of helicopters and shouting. Carson's team was waiting, their weapons trained on the facility's entrance. "Get to the chopper," Carson shouted, waving them over. As they ran toward the waiting helicopter, Ella looked back at the facility, her heart sinking. Liam was still inside. "He'll make it," Zara said, as if reading her thoughts. "He has to," Ella whispered. The ground beneath the facility rumbled as the reactor reached critical levels. A massive explosion erupted from the structure, sending a plume of fire and debris into the sky. Ella's heart sank. "No, Liam." But then, through the smoke and chaos, a figure emerged. Liam, clutching the data drive, stumbled out of the wreckage. "He's alive," Sophia shouted. Ella ran to meet him, tears streaming down her face. "You idiot. I thought you." "Not a chance," Liam said, his voice weak but steady. "Told you I'd catch up." As the team boarded the helicopter, Novak appeared in the distance, his face twisted with rage. He shouted something inaudible over the roar of the engines, but his words were lost as the helicopter lifted off. "We'll finish this," Novak shouted after them, his voice swallowed by the flames. Ella stared down at him, her grip tightening on the drive. "Not if we finish you first." Cliffhanger. As the helicopter ascended, Sophia connected the drive to a secure terminal. "The failsafe is fully uploaded," she said, her voice filled with relief. "The truth is out." Ella looked at the glowing horizon, the burning remains of Oracle's facility lighting up the night. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice firm. "We've taken the first step, but there's still more to do." Novak's shadowy figure disappeared from view as the helicopter flew into the night, leaving behind the wreckage of Oracle's empire and the promise of justice to come. The helicopter's blades cut through the pre-dawn sky, the cold air whipping across Ella's face as she sat near the open door, clutching the data drive. Beside her, Liam leaned back, his exhaustion evident but his eyes still sharp. Sophia worked feverishly on her portable console, her fingers flying as she ensured the failsafe upload continued its broadcast. Zara sat opposite, checking her rifle with practiced efficiency, though her gaze kept darting toward the horizon. Below them, the remains of Oracle's main facility smoldered, the fire and ash rising into the atmosphere like the final exhale of a crumbling empire. "It's spreading," Sophia said, her voice carrying over the roar of the rotors. "The files are everywhere now. Media outlets, independent journalists, even whistleblower platforms. Oracle's done." Ella nodded but said nothing. Her grip on the data drive tightened as she thought of Novak's words, his chilling confidence even as the facility collapsed around him. "This isn't over yet," she said softly, more to herself than anyone else. The helicopter touched down at a secure airstrip where Carson's team had set up a temporary command center. As Ella and the others disembarked, the controlled chaos of the operation buzzed around them. Agents moved with purpose, relaying information and coordinating with international authorities. Carson approached, his face grim but relieved. "You made it," he said, clapping Liam on the shoulder. "Thought we lost you back there." "Not yet," Liam replied, though his voice carried the weight of close calls and narrow escapes. Carson turned to Ella. "The upload is being monitored by every major agency in the world. Oracle's network is imploding. Their accounts are frozen, their facilities are being raided, and their people are being arrested. You did it." Ella shook her head. "Not yet. Novak's still out there, and he won't stop until he rebuilds what we've destroyed." Carson's expression hardened. "We'll find him. He won't get far." As the team moved into the command center, Sophia connected the data drive to a secured terminal, her face illuminated by the glow of multiple monitors. The files on the drive began populating the screen, each one more damning than the last. Evidence of Oracle's black budget projects, human experimentation, and corruption at the highest levels of government and industry. "It's worse than we thought," Sophia said, her voice trembling. "They didn't just influence governments. They controlled them, bribing officials, blackmailing judges, even assassinating those who resisted." Liam leaned over her shoulder, his jaw tightening as he scanned the files. And Novak was at the center of it all. He wasn't just a pawn. He was one of the architects. Zara crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "So, where is he now?" Carson stepped forward, holding a tablet displaying satellite feeds. "We're tracking his movements. He escaped the facility, but his options are limited. He's burned every bridge trying to save himself. Ella looked at the screen, her determination sharpening. We can't let him disappear. He's the last piece of this puzzle. The team coordinated with international agencies to hunt Novak down. Every move he made was tracked, every call intercepted, every safe house compromised. Oracle's network of operatives and loyalists crumbled as the files Ella's team had released reached the public, exposing everyone involved in the conspiracy. "We've got a lead," Carson said one night, his voice cutting through the tension in the room. "Novak's been spotted in a private airfield near the border. He's trying to flee the country." Ella grabbed her gear, her resolve hardening. "Then we stop him." The final confrontation unfolded at the airfield, the team arriving just as Novak's private jet prepared for takeoff. The roar of the engines filled the night as Ella, Liam, Zara, and Carson approached with the strike team. Novak stood at the top of the jet's stairs, his usual composure replaced with desperation. His operatives, fewer than before, formed a defensive line between him and the team. "Ella!" Novak shouted over the noise, his voice carrying a mix of anger and disbelief. "You don't understand what you're destroying. Oracle wasn't just power. It was progress. It was control." Ella stepped forward, her weapon trained on him. "Progress built on lies, suffering, and death? That's not progress. That's tyranny." Novak smirked, though it was tinged with desperation. "Do you think exposing the truth will fix anything? The world thrives on control. Without it, there's only chaos." Zara's voice cut through the tension. "We'll take chaos over you any day." The air erupted with gunfire as Novak's operatives opened fire. Carson's team returned fire, moving with precision and efficiency. Ella and Liam moved as a unit, pushing toward the jet as Zara provided cover. The battle was swift but intense, Novak's dwindling resources no match for the trained strike team. As the last of his operatives fell, Novak retreated into the jet, locking the door behind him. "He's trying to take off," Sophia shouted through the comms, monitoring the airfield systems. "If he gets airborne, we'll lose him." Ella ran to the jet, scaling the stairs as the engines roared to life. She reached the door and fired at the lock, forcing it open. Inside, Novak stood at the cockpit door, a pistol in his hand. "You're too late," he said, his voice shaking but defiant. "You can kill me, but someone else will take my place. The cycle will never end." Ella raised her weapon, her hands steady. "This ends with you, Novak. No more lies. No more power plays. You're finished." Novak raised his pistol, but before he could fire, Liam appeared behind him, disarming him with a swift, calculated strike. "It's over," Liam said, his voice cold. Novak laughed bitterly, his hands raised in surrender. "You think you've won? The world doesn't change overnight." Ella stepped closer, her voice firm. "No, but it changes one step at a time. And this is the first step." Back at the command center, news of Novak's capture spread like wildfire. Media outlets broadcast his arrest, and the files Ella's team had uploaded continued to dominate headlines. Public outrage grew as the full extent of Oracle's corruption and cruelty was revealed. Governments worldwide launched investigations, dismantling the remnants of Oracle's network. Sophia looked up from her console, her face glowing with pride. "We did it. The truth is out, and they can't bury it this time." Weeks later, Ella stood on the front porch of her family's ranch, the sun setting over the Texas horizon. The scars of the battle remained, but so did the sense of victory. "Think this'll stick?" Liam asked, joining her with 2 mugs of coffee. "It has to," Ella said, her voice quiet but resolute. "People won't forget what Oracle did, and they won't let it happen again." Zara leaned against the railing, her usual smirk softening. "Here's to a world without Novak." "To justice," Ella said, raising her mug. As night fell, Ella felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The fight was over, for now, but the legacy of what they had accomplished would last. Together, they had torn down a corrupt empire and exposed the truth to the world. And in doing so, they had shown that even in the darkest shadows, justice could prevail.